my fake ponytail and my not actually Chanel shirt that I got from Etsy for $20, welcome you back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit of an unconventional one, and I'm hoping that I will like the finished product enough to upload it. I might just trash it. We never know. But if you've been with me since the beginning of the year, or even like halfway through the year, because I think I've mentioned it a couple times, mostly in new makeup releases, favorites, and fails videos, but I decided to go on a low buy at the beginning of the year in January that was supposed to last for 2 months. I'm still on it, so clearly it's been good. It was supposed to be this kind of low buy. I wrote out some rules for myself, and I was going to try and see if I could get myself to a more good relationship with buying makeup and adding new things to my collection. That low buy that was supposed to be for 2 months and was supposed to be like a challenging thing for me ended up kind of snowballing into pretty much like a semi no buy. In total, for myself, I've bought less items of makeup this year than I can count on my hands. Not only that, I feel like my relationship with both my collection and my shopping habits has changed drastically. So in today's video, I kind of want to do both like a low buy update and then to share some of the techniques and the things I've learned along the way that have basically helped me stop buying makeup. I wouldn't say that I've completely stopped buying makeup by any means. I don't have rules with myself, so if I see something I want, I will go ahead and get it. But I feel like my relationship with new releases in particular has become a lot less stressful. And when I say it out loud, it kind of seems like a silly and frivolous thing. Like new makeup releases were stressing me out because like it's makeup. But especially because I was doing the new makeup releases, favorites, and fails series as a series. So every month I was like buying new releases to test out on my channel to a point where I was just getting things to test out. And I wasn't maybe necessarily super passionate about those products. I just wanted to test them out for the sake of content. And I'm not saying I wasn't like enjoying those products genuinely. It's just like I wasn't just getting makeup for the purpose of getting makeup to enjoy it, you know? Before I kind of start this reflection, I do want to make two major disclaimers to it. Number one, I would be remiss to not mention or consider the fact that PR has been a huge factor in me not having to buy as much makeup. I don't get a ton of PR. I did take myself off a couple PR lists at the beginning of the year. So I wouldn't say I get like the mountains of PR boxes that you'd see in like PR unboxing videos, but PR has been a really helpful tool for not only helping me buy less makeup and still be able to review new products and new releases when they come out, but it's also a privileged position to be in. So I don't want to necessarily ignore that very big factor that has helped me a lot in not buying as much makeup. That's definitely been like probably like 40% of the thing. But today I want to focus on the kind of 60% of the thing that has been curbing my own like issues. But of course I do want to acknowledge that PR has been like a huge factor in helping me on this kind of journey. And then the second disclaimer is that these are tips very personal to like kind of my experience and what I've learned along the way. This video is not meant to be like, hey, everyone should stop buying makeup or go on a low buy or go on a no buy. Buying makeup, if it makes you happy in any quantity, does not have to be a bad thing. It's all about your personal relationship with how you buy makeup. For me, my makeup buying habits were stressing me out and making me not enjoy makeup anymore. And that was a me problem that I had with myself, not makeup buying as a whole. And I don't want to make this video from a position of like, I've cracked the code to not buying makeup anymore, because it's not true. I'm in a pretty good place now, and this low buy has taught me a lot of things. So I want to share kind of the lessons I've learned so far from it, and tips that have helped me kind of curb my spending habits on makeup and enjoy what I have in my collection more. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it's helpful in some way. Today's do fairy of the day is Amelia Helen. Thank you so much for having your notification bell on. And I think I've talked more than enough. This was definitely a very long intro, but it was still kind of part of the video, so.
Easter weekend is that.
Dumb.
So the first major thing that really helped me on my low buy was making a set of low buy rules. I had a little list of low buy rules and I included it in my original video in January. But basically I wrote out rules for myself that applied to my collection and the things I knew I needed to reduce and not buy. Number one was no more skincare purchases until I finish one whole product in that category. So like a 1-to-1 ratio of addition to subtraction. Number two was the same with foundations and concealers. So no new foundations or concealers until I finished one in that category. Number three was please stay strong on eyeshadow palettes and cheek products, dumb bleep. I had one rule of not buying products I know that I don't use as much or I don't need any more of. So no buying loose powders, primers, beauty oils, or setting sprays. No buying drugstore makeup for the sake of buying something inexpensive/cheap. 6, try to buy and declutter on a 1-to-1 ratio. That was easier said than done, and I definitely did declutter on a higher ratio than buying. 7, no single eyeshadows, pots are okay, like Super Shocks. 8 was another category of products I just didn't want to buy straight up. So no eyeliners, brow products, or lip liners. Those are products I don't go through very often, so I knew I didn't want to add new ones of. Number 9, no glitters whatsoever. Crazy that I needed a whole rule for that, but hey. Number 10 was no new mascaras until you finish one, and no full-size high-end mascaras. And number 11 was donate more PR and be realistic with what you keep, because I was getting into a habit of like wanting to keep everything just in case I wanted to make a video on it, when in reality probably never would, because I wouldn't be using it in regular regular life. And the products I like talking about on my channel are things I genuinely like to use whenever I sit down to do my makeup, not just things I have in the collection. So this list of rules, well, very dumb and written on an airplane, was very helpful because I think just like writing it down kind of like manifested it. And just having a set of guidelines was a lot more useful for me to visualize and kind of execute the goal rather than just being like, hey, I want to buy less makeup, but not really having a place to start and not really having like guidelines on how to get there. So that's my first tip if you want to kind of start a low buy or start a no buy, is to just make a list of rules for yourself. Pinpoint the areas of like product buying that you know are like problems for you or tempting. For me, it was eyeshadow palettes and cheek products. Make goals/rules that are realistic enough that you can fulfill them but still feel good about them. Like, don't make them too vague or broad that they're easy enough to fulfill so that you're not actually doing anything, but also don't make them too strict to a point where it's like unhealthy. And then also just being kind with yourself and realistic with yourself. I guess it's a lot more unhealthy to penalize yourself and feel bad about buying something that you wanted if you slipped up technically than just getting something and enjoying it, because that's the whole purpose, is just kind of trying to have a good relationship with the things you buy. The second major tip that really helped me was putting things onto a wish list and waiting until the new release hype died down before I bought a product. Personally, for me, one of my biggest problems was getting really stressed out is kind of an extreme term, I guess, but like pressured by new releases and the hype of things when they first came out, especially because like talking about new releases on your channel is good for your channel. But what I learned, and the product that really taught me this, I guess, was the Naked Honey palette last year. This palette I was kind of intrigued by when it first came out, but I didn't get this one until Christmas, so a couple months after it had come out. So when I finally got this one, the new release hype had kind of died down around it, but I was still excited about it and excited to test it out and use it. And that kind of showed me, I guess, that it's good to wait, just to kind of wait out the new release hype sometimes and really confirm that you're excited about the product that you're getting, not just because it's so new and so fresh on the market, but because it's something that you wanted to add to your collection. So that was kind of the second thing that helped me, but the pandemic was a huge factor in it as well, because obviously Sephora was closed, but also a lot of brands stopped releasing things. ColourPop is back, or when they did, it's not like I could go see the product in person and get it immediately. So when it came out, I could just kind of sit on it and stew, and I guess just kind of slow down, so that whenever something came out that was a new release, I could just kind of evaluate it better. Even if I did still buy it within its kind of newness period, I think I've developed a lot more of a clear sense of like, do I want this just because it's a new release? Would I still be excited about it a couple months down the line? Or am I just getting hyped up about it now? The third pillar for me was actually decluttering. And this one kind of seemed counterintuitive because a lot of the time, especially on like YouTube declutters, a lot of people when they declutter stuff are like, I want to declutter some things so I can go buy new things. But instead, I really found that decluttering things both on camera and off camera was really helpful because I could kind of clear out the things I wasn't using anymore, and then once things were kind of less cluttered, refocus on things that I already loved in the past and kind of like rediscover old favorites in that sense. So during this year, I've done quite a few declutter type videos, either like actual on-camera declutters or like declutter recaps where I talk about products I've decluttered off camera and things I've gotten rid of. And a comment that I got, I want to say 2 months ago, kind of made me think about the decluttering process a little bit. It was a really sweet comment, something along the lines of, I love your declutter content, but I don't want you to be making the declutter content because you feel pressure that you have to constantly declutter. Don't declutter for the sake of a video, just be happy with your collection. That made me take a pause because I wanted to evaluate, like, am I actually doing that, or am I happy with the way that I'm decluttering? And thankfully I kind of realized I was. I haven't regretted anything that I've decluttered, and I feel like every single time I've decided to let go of a product, even if I've like loved it in the past, that was a huge barrier for me, was like I felt like if something was an old favorite in the past, I couldn't declutter it because I'd be betraying past me. But kind of getting over that hump, clearing things out, and then allowing myself to refocus on old favorites rather than bringing in new things to satisfy that has been really helpful for me. So that's really interesting to me. Decluttering can have such a different meaning to different people, and people have different relationships with declutters. I definitely do believe that some people use decluttering as a way to kind of clear out their collection in service of buying new products, but for me, decluttering was really helpful for clearing out my collection to not buy new products. That's meta. The next thing that I learned about myself, that I don't think this one's going to be universal, but personally for me, buying makeup pieces individually instead of all at once in a haul is a lot worse for me. They opened a Sephora recently, like a mile from my home, which is not lovely. When I'm in-person shopping, I'm much more likely to just buy one product, whereas when I'm buying stuff online in like a haul, and I have to pay for shipping, I usually buy like multiple things at once so I cannot pay for shipping. Crazy how I'll like buy a $25 lipstick just to avoid a $5 shipping cost, but hey. You would think that like buying items individually would be like more conducive to not buying as much, but I found that kind of not allowing myself to just mindlessly pick up one item here and there was really helpful, because that would kind of add up over time. Whereas if everything is in place and I have to see the total balance in the haul shopping cart, I'm a lot more likely to kind of take things out of my bag and be like, okay, maybe I don't need that, just to bring the kind of total down. So kind of forcing myself to see the cost of everything at once rather than like buying a $20 thing here and there was a little bit more productive for me, because sometimes I would just see the total balance and be like, you know what, I don't need any of this, and I would just close the Sephora checkout. Or I would be like, maybe I don't want that, and I would weed things out of my cart that maybe I wasn't as passionate about and was just kind of buying for the sake of it. Whereas if I'd been buying everything individually at once in person, it would be more like, oh, $20 here and there, why not? I don't know if I explained that well, but at this point I'm sweaty and I'm too tired to do it again. And the fifth thing that really helped me a lot was breaking both collection mentality and brand allegiance. So by collection mentality, I kind of mean like wanting to collect every single Anastasia palette. I wouldn't say that I did all the work in breaking that, because ABH did make it pretty easy for me, because some of the palettes they came out with I just didn't want to buy, so that made it easy to not want to add it to my collection. But especially on like makeup YouTube in general, I think collection mentality is a big thing, where people like, they want to buy every single ColourPop monochromatic palette, or every single ABH 14 pan like this. Or I don't know who does this, because you would have 8 million of the same brown, but every single Morphe 35 palette or something like that. Kind of breaking out of the collection mentality for makeup and not being like, hey, I want to have every single palette or every single shade in this line. And that kind of comes hand in hand with brand allegiance. So I used to have a huge thing for ABH where I would want to get like pretty much all their new releases. They're not that brand for me anymore, and they haven't been since Norvina.
I'm a real messy bitch.
But for me, the kind of brand allegiances I had to break out of were ABH, Melt Cosmetics definitely. I think that's kind of it. Those are the two big brands that I felt a lot of like brand loyalty to. Kind of de-specializing brands, taking them out of that special place in your heart where it's like, oh, I love this brand, I love their aesthetic, I love the products that they come out with. For me, that was really helpful in kind of getting me out of the new releases rut and just enjoying my collection and the things I wanted to add in. So that's pretty much it. I hope this was a somewhat coherent video, just talking about some of the things I've learned along the way of my low buy, and I'm probably just going to continue doing this, honestly. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, if not for me, for this ponytail. Make sure you are subscribed down below, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and if you made it to the very end of this video, you get the bonus meme. I love you.